office, so far. Obviously, Bangalore is not that far, we are really, I'll just keep it on the side for now.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, and trees are our new love, and we are trying to spread, as much off-season in the world as possible. And today we're going to talk about OT technology. And while we talk about OT, talk about security and operational technology, I just want to welcome you before to Saro headquarters, the heart of Saro Consulting, Saro Cyber, Saro Technologies. This heart is right here, right? This is where all our leadership sits, and obviously Aruna is in Middle East, she sits in Dubai in our headquarters there for Middle East, but for everybody else, we sit here, and then our delivery teams kind of are spread across, but I'll not waste time on this. I'll come back to OT. So, you are a SME in OT SOC field, and while we work together on multiple SOCs in the industry, what is the top challenge, right? And top one thing that comes to your mind in terms of an issue when somebody says OT SOC, what one problem comes to your mind first?
Well, Sabha, thank you again. It's always my pleasure to come back here at the Saro headquarters, and as always, the energy is ecstatic here. I just love it. But today being a Sunday, and I feel nobody out here. It's all empty.
We don't work on Sundays. You can join us, and we have a lot of openings at Saro. I'm just kidding. Yes, sir.
So from an OT perspective, if you see that, I see one statement that you need to learn is the OT systems are built to last. Unlike your IT systems that you see, where you refresh your hardwares or your softwares of the world within 3 years, 5 years, OT, once it's built, this critical infrastructure, they get replaced probably once in a lifetime or probably never. So you see, once something is built up, it takes 20, 30 years to replace because they have to get the maximum ROI out of the system. So what are the system I'm talking about? I'm talking about your water dams, I'm talking about your chemical. Let's imagine you have a huge chemical plant. You will never replace the plant every 2 years or 3 years. You are going to be there for 20 years. So that means you have a lot of old legacy systems in place. Now, what do we do from an OT perspective? When you have legacy system, you will try to isolate them. You'll try to make sure that they do not communicate out to the internet. And that's where the OT part that comes in, where we say that, oh, our systems are isolated, or our systems are not talking to the internet. Now, why do I see the issue here? Number one is that how do I take all of the data now that it's isolated, now that it's not connected to your corporate network, it's not connected to the internet, how do I first take that data out, and how do I analyze for all the kind of threats that are out there? So that's a big question. Second thing is that how do I ensure that when I have to patch something, when I have to update the software, how do I ensure that I only have a bi-directional communication with my system, not a two-way, because if that's the case, I may end up getting infected by a malware. So these are the two major things that we typically see a theme in an OT environment, where one, you have a major issue with how do I ensure that I have visibility of all my assets that are out there, starting, if I look into the Purdue level, starting from all the way at the top to your actuators, to your PLCs, from your PLCs to your HMI devices, from your HMI devices to your perimeter devices, everything I need to have an access to.
So while you say that either we isolate or we make them single, unidirectional, not bi-directional, what can go wrong? And I'm just, when I think about OT, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I don't know what people, everybody gets some other image for OT, but a windmill comes to my mind first, right? Because we also have a office in Netherlands, and whenever I go there, I keep seeing windmills across, and then I think about, oh, in India we have such good wind power. So then I kind of combine them and consistently see windmills. So what can happen there? I know it goes right, but can I start going back? What can happen?
Anything for that matter, anything can go wrong. And you're talking about life and death situation, even with windmill. Imagine a malicious threat actor, he came in and he changed the amount or the electricity that goes in, or voltage, so we call it voltage spike, or let's imagine that he was able to increase the rotation per minute of the windmill. What's going to happen? Of course, there are some cutoff mechanism in windmill, but if somehow he's able to bypass that,
it sounds like some attack that happened recently in Middle East.
It did.
Those something, they blasted, you remember?
Not only that, you have the colonial gas.
Was that an
pipeline.
OT attack?
It is an OT attack. There
Yeah.
were many attacks that happened recently, not only the energy sector, very specifically. There was recently in US, there was a colonial gas pipeline attack
Yeah.
where the entire of the US, one part of the US, they did not have the gas at all. People were really, really panicking. There have been documented cases where in the medical scenario, in the industry, your healthcare industry, where there have been ransomware. Specifically, what happened was that they were not able to do diagnosis. So this is a life and threat.
Are we talking about AIMS?
AIMS was a different thing, although it was not an OT attack, I would
Yeah.
say, but it was more of an IT attack that happened through a ransomware. But there have been cases where there have been OT attacks specifically to.
Give us one example, and believe me, while I'm hearing this, I have been in the industry for 8 years myself, but even if I'm into cyber, and even if I'm a CISO in cyber, what happens is after a point in time, we cannot upskill. But you being a SME in the field, having so much depth into this, what do you think about this? How do we solve the problem?
From an example perspective, there is no better example, and I would urge everybody, if you're not familiar about the Stuxnet attack, this is a well documented, everywhere you would see that. Go and watch the Stuxnet attack. Now, what is the Stuxnet attack? What happened? Israel wanted to stop US, they wanted to stop Iran from enriching the nuclear facility.
Okay.
What they did, allegedly, they put a malware in their uranium reactor. And you know what happened? Their entire uranium facility was destroyed. They were thrown back at least 4 to 5 years when it comes to enriching the uranium. So this is what happened with the Stuxnet attack. It's a very well documented, amazing attack that happened where these spies of the world, they were involved as well as everybody else, and they were able to stop the Iranian regime from getting into a nuclear facility.
And being in India and working in across, I think I do not want to give my opinions on something, and we are just talking about this as a disclaimer for knowledge purposes, and that's also all. Aditya, thank you for coming to the Saro studio. You're most welcome here. Obviously we're working together now, so looking forward to doing more of this and informing and educating our world to do better in their OT SOC as well. And thank you for coming. And I hope you like the tree. Yeah, it gives oxygen.
Yes, the plant indeed.